Hey everybody, how you doing? I'm Pabs, the Rising VTuber and an artist, and today we're gonna draw a vampire. Or actually, I guess technically we're drawing two vampires. I've had this idea kicking in my head for like a little bit now, maybe like a week or so. And actually, maybe I should make the canvas just a tiny bit bigger vertically, just so it's a little bit more squarish, perhaps. Yeah, I think that's a good size. So for some reason, I've had vampires on the brain recently. And I really wanted to draw like a vampire in a very kind of classic, elegant clothing. But I've also been looking into things like occult detective stories and such. So what I kind of wanted to do was I kind of wanted to draw like a... Hang on. So I'm picturing one of them is going to be like fairly bigger than the other. One of them is definitely like the bigger one between the two of them. So I kind of wanted to draw a sort of Sherlock Holmes Watson analog, but as like the two very fancy looking vampire ladies. And like one I like this idea in my head. I want to make their kind of motif a heart with a stake through it, but in everywhere except maybe the actual heart. So this is just of the vague idea that I've had for the motif that they have. Or that for the logo. So let's get to work on actually building these together. And what I could do as well is I could probably just use some very basic poses and the character models. So let's go grab those real quick. So body type. Yeah, just a normal 3D drawing figures is probably fine. And we can add a second one over here. Figure so nice, you do it twice. Okay. Let's actually put the logo a little bit over here. So, again, one of them I'm picturing being fairly tall, like... I'm gonna say 180 centimeters, maybe. That always seems like that's always my default go-to height for just like a fairly large person. Not huge, mind you, but you know, definitely like on the bigger side. Definitely, I feel like maybe like slightly broader shoulders too. I want her to have almost like a sort of sleeper build. Right, she doesn't look very strong from the outside, but definitely there is a lot going under the petticoats. For the other one, how tall is the model here? 160 centimeters. Let's give her a pity 5 extra, 165. And for her, I'm definitely picturing like a very lithe build. Maybe. Hang on. Definitely slightly wider on the hips, but I think besides, oh, that's too much. That looks very strange. Let's not do that. But I think besides that, there's not much else that I would change. So let's try and just select a pose real quick so that they're not just posing all the time like this. There has to be poses that are not as dynamic as some of these because these are very good. Oh wait, no, these will do. These will do nicely actually. Okay. Not what I have intended to do. Get this guy out of here. Not exactly like... Yeah, there we go. Maybe sort of like that. I'm not... Hang on. I swear we've seen this pose before. We were just here a second ago. Okay. Yeah, this one definitely... I think that the smaller one is definitely going to be very... I want to say cartoonishly feminine, like... Not as in she is feminine to a cartoonish extent, but rather she is she is feminine and also cartoonish. I definitely want to. This is on me for being an uncultured maroon and never reading Sherlock Holmes. I don't know what Watson's actually like, and I feel like a lot of the depictions of him compared to Sherlock Holmes. This is the same pose. But yeah, I feel like a lot of his portrayals compared to Sherlock Holmes are probably. Oh, hang on, maybe the hands behind the back. Something like that could work, actually. I don't know. How about this? Ooh, that's also kind of good. I don't know. How about? Nah. I want her to look kind of stoic. So what's a good? Maybe this one. No, these are all too. Some of these feel awkward with the build that I'm going for. Maybe just hands on hips? No, that also doesn't seem to fit quite right. God, I love how many poses I have. It is a blessing and a curse. I have a very rich variety. Although some of these do look kinda samey sometimes. Well, it is like a thumb-sized bit of the screen that's right there, so maybe the issue doesn't lie with me entirely. Wait, what's this pose? What is that? What is that supposed to represent as a pose? What does it say? It's in Japanese. I can't read that. I don't know how to read Japanese. It's like, oh shit. Oh, my bad, G. Oh no. Okay, well now the pose makes sense. She's grimacing at her comrade suddenly displaying her. She's asserting herself by expressing her flexibility. How about this one? I think that one's also good. To be quite honest, I think this one's also. Yeah, this one feels good because like the shoulders are squared, but it's not. I do the thing sometimes where I have my hand kind of clutching the wrist, and I just stand like that with one fist in front of the other. Maybe something more akin to that might be good. Let me tell you, that's I don't think we're making it past the hip on the model. And maybe just relaxing this one and bringing it up, spinning that around, and then bringing that down. I think that as a consequence of me unlocking the mobility of the mannequins, I've kind of given myself a tremendous amount of freedom. Yeah, I'll have to change the hand shape, but that seems good. As for the subordinate, let's go back quickly and check out a couple of the other poses, because I feel like some of these were winners for her. Honestly, like, this one's also pretty good. What's this one about? That's a bit dramatic. Actually, I think it'd be... Wait, no, I think this one's good because it also communicates their relationship, because, like, this one's a subordinate. I know that realistically, there's no reason why the subordinate should be shorter than the senior. Not senior, I guess superior would be the term. But yeah, there's no reason that the subordinate should be shorter than the superior, but I do think it's just, it fits their vibe correctly. I do also think that maybe I'm going to maybe straighten out the spine just a tiny bit. Yeah, because the hips are kind of crazy on this one. Let's relax those a little bit. That also explains why the shoulder was probably having so much trouble being straight. Alright, let's try this. How far? No, this needs to be shorter down. And this one also needs to be shorter down. Is that cromulent? Is that an actual direction? Am I spitting or not? Let's try this. Okay, there. Perfect. Okay, just move her out here. And maybe we can change the canvas size a little bit just so that we have more head space. I also think that maybe the camera needs to be, hang on, a little bit more like this, because I think otherwise the proportions are going to look slightly off. Okay. Let's get to work on the actual expression and everything. Maybe we can go a shade darker than that. I feel so unsafe whenever I try to go directly into line art, even if it is one of those cases where I'm starting out with... Hang on, what's a good contrast color for this? Maybe orange? Orange is showing up pretty good. Let's try orange. But yeah. So first things first, I had the idea that the first place for the motif to show up would be as an eye patch for the head vampire. Is it? Hang on. I feel like... Have I seen this somewhere before? Is this what that guy from Guilty Gear has? That's such a broad question. Hang on. Where's that cat boy from Guilty Gear? Okay, no. It is... Okay, it's similar, but not exactly right. Not to be confused with Asuka R. Sharp. Complicated ass. I don't know why I called him a cat boy. I remember seeing him with cat ears at some point, vaguely. But I don't think he actually was a certified cat boy at any given time. Or maybe he was. I don't know. I'm not... Lord knows I'm not an expert on Guilty Gear lore. But yeah, I also kind of wanted to base this loosely on that old French film, Voyage to the Moon. So let's go with that for now. In terms of the hairstyle, pardon me, I dragged my microphone a little bit and it kind of clinged around a little. But yeah, let's take a look, because I had an idea for what to do with the hairstyle for them. Trying to position the sketchbook so it's in a place where it's not going to bother me to move around. There we go. Okay. So maybe what we can do is maybe one half of the hair put up and the other half just hanging down. Good luck, the vampire. Thank you, Adept. I appreciate it. I don't know. I kind of want to give the short one ringlets, but I don't know what I'm going to give the bigger one. Besides this, I did want to give her horns, though. I did want to do a Chainsaw Man reference, and there's a part in Chainsaw Man where one of the characters who has blood-themed abilities overdoses on blood and grows out like a pair of horns like this. I think that might be good to throw in. I do think that is a bit on the nose, though. Maybe a different style. I don't know. What are some weird horns that the folks around here have seen? Maybe antlers? Antlers could be interesting. What? Oh, wait. Actually, maybe we can tie this into the whole thing with Sherlock Holmes. So I think the style of or type of hat that Sherlock Holmes wears is called a deer stalker, right? So what if we just gave her deer antlers? What does that look like? What do deer antlers look like again? Ah, okay. Very simple. Fair. Okay, they can be simple. I imagine there are exceptions to everything. But yeah, deer antlers can be shockingly not as complicated as I thought. Okay, let's try this. Deer antlers are some of the most classic antlers out there, really. That's true. You know what? They kind of look like hands, too, so I'm gonna just go with that theme. You know, I never really paid attention to deer antlers before. I really should have turned on the symmetry tool, huh? Oh well. I don't know. Something very basic and elegant about deer antlers. You know what? You got a three-pronged finger. I don't want to make these too complicated and not draw this character ever again. Maybe just slightly pointed ears as well. I don't know. What are some messed up looking antlers? Because I know there's a couple out there. Narwhal and I guess you wouldn't call that an antler, right? It's technically not an antler since it's made out of teeth, I think. So a narwhal thingamajig doesn't count. I don't know. I think having too thick of an eyelash is... Yeah, narwhals are more horns. Yeah, I forgot the word for horn. I'm gonna keep it a $1.50. I forgot the word horn existed, and I was like, "What's that thing that isn't antlers but also protrudes from your skull?" Don't know the actual biology things there, admittedly. I went to an exhibit one time that did explain this in detail. I'm 80% sure it's teeth. But I've been wrong before. Also, completely understandable English has so many words. That's true. English, you know what? For all the flack that I give it, English is a very rich language that has like at least 5 words for anything you can think of. So you know what? Props to English where it's due. Granted, it stole most of those words from other languages, but it still counts. You know what? If those languages have the guts to lose those words, English has the guts to keep it. That's how it goes. Law of the jungle. Okay. And maybe we can... I wouldn't be English without it being largely powerful via stealing from other countries. Oof. Nice one. But yeah, I also want to add a little... You know what? I had in the original sketch, I had the subordinate vampire with a bonnet that had like that looked like a thing of blood. But I think that's a little bit like the ruffles were supposed to look like flowers, which is cool, I think, in theory, but also sounds like a pain in the ass to draw. So I think I'm gonna give her a Ushanka or some kind of vertical hat. I do think it's also going to have the logo right here. I think the idea will be to have the logo just be vertical like this. Also, I think it's going to look cute because it's going to add to her height. But yeah, here's the thing. I had the faces like very well thought out because those are the easiest part to figure out. I'm also gonna give her like the rich girl curls. Okay, just a little bit below the chin. There we go. I think her ears are also going to be like a little bit longer. Or maybe not, actually. Or maybe, you know what? I think they're probably just going to be hidden under the hair. Yeah, I think we should just add a mess of hair back there and let the dice fall where they may. I also like the idea of her having like a very wide mouth. Cat-like. Maybe the eyebrows are also pointed down a little bit. I did also want to have like her mascara run a little bit. We're making some kind of creature over there. I feel like she's missing something down the middle here. Maybe we can have a back ornament for the hair. I don't know. Trying to think about like the kind of headgear, I don't know, Victorian woman headgear. Mini hat? Question mark? Is that a thing that was is that a thing that used to happen? Or am I just gonna get a bunch of steampunk bullshit? Time to roll the dice. Where's the web browser source? There it is. Okay. Okay. Okay, this one's cute. Let's see though. Granted, we could also just have the antlers protrude back there. Tiny hats are really cute as a thing. You are absolutely holy fuck. You know what? I do think tiny hats are cute, but I do think this one has a lot of aura. This is not a hat you would fuck with, I think. Like, you wouldn't... whoever dons this hat is, like, immediately unfuckwithable. Granted, they'll have some trouble getting through certain doorways or small spaces, but you know what? Everything for the fashion. Yeah. Big Hat Logan from Dark Souls? Hang on. I gotta Google something real quick. Yeah! Oh, fuck! Oh, shit. Alright. Alright. Big Hat Logan... I presume to understand your game, but I see now that there are a depth to it, a profoundness to it, which is unfathomable. You can get his hat. It would be criminal if you couldn't. Bro, how do you see out of that thing? You're insane. I guess when your fashion sense is this unreal, you don't need to see. Actually, you know what might be good? A beret of sorts. Victorian beret. Ooh, yeah. Okay. When you're so powerful you're named after your big hat, you don't need to see what's going on. That's true. I think past that point, you've already kind of figured out a workaround for most things. Like, if by the time you get to be called Big Hat Logan, and you don't know how to work around your big hat, I think, I do just think it's on you. I do think you're just not locked into this shit. Okay, yeah, what we can do is we can have the antlers pop out of the hat. Also, I might make the mouth slightly smaller. It's kind of bugging me right now. God, that is sick though. I do honestly love big hats. Hats in general are just such a deeply fascinating neck of the human fashion sense. Hello, Sentai. How you doing? Okay, so here's what I'm thinking. There are a lot of ways you can do that. Okay, how can I make a heart-shaped keyhole without actually making a heart-shaped keyhole? Because I want to be able to create... Or actually, couldn't I just, like, put another heart over there? There we go. But yeah, I love the idea of a pair of vampires having a staked heart motif. Maybe... Okay, would it be too much to have the dress hang off of the stake? Trying to... I was kind of picturing, like, Gothic Lolita for the fashion sense here. Maybe I should do some research. What was that one store? 40... It had a number before it. 40... Hang on. Market, maybe? Is that an actual... Okay, hang on. I just chanced upon something absolutely nuts. Check this out. So, okay, if you've never heard of Gothic Lolita, it's a style of dress that originated in Japan, but it uses a lot of kind of cues from Victorian, you know, very fancy clothing. And hang on. It's very cool. It's a very cool style because it's very elaborate and it has a lot of frills and interesting details that I don't think you see in a lot of other fashion senses. It also kind of rules for like a vampire fit because I think, you know, it just kind of fits. It fits this idea of like this very ancient person. I'm a big fan of it. That being said, hang on. Cookie settings. Okay, confirm my choices. I do live outside of Japan, but I'm probably not going to be a customer today. I'm going to be so real with you. Holy shit. Check. Let's take a peep at this real quick. Look at that. This fucking rules. I love when there's like a specific market geared toward a specific subculture. I love when that happens. Like, oh my god, that headgear too. Fuck, that's so cool. I don't know. I think fashion in particular is one of those areas where you really understand the passion that goes into it. And I think because of that, I really appreciate things like this where people come together to, you know, share what they have. Obviously, it's commercialized and people are here to trade, but it's also, yeah, a lot of cool stuff going on here. I'm a big fan. All right. At Shibuya Hikarie Hall. Interesting. Okay. Past event report, media coverage history. Do you have like a catalog? Can I peep the catalog, please? Okay. Media coverage. Appeared in the documentary video 100. Online media Kara, second Gothic Lolita market report published. Okay, so this is just appearances in other media. Published interview article by Ren Oishi, Gothic and Lolita market interview with Nanako Yamada. Okay. Hang on. Gothic Lolita clothing shop. 42 Lolita, that's the one. This is I remember a while back when I was researching OG style for the bloodstained design. This is where I found a lot of the references for that kind of clothing. Okay, okay. I I am picturing something like this, so hang on. I am picturing something like this, so definitely with the same idea of a cutout. Hang on. Wait, how does a cape work precisely? Black Bolero? Black JSK, Black Bolero? What's a bolero? I thought bolero was like a type of music. Hmm. I see, okay. Bolero is also a type of jacket? Hang on. Oh! Oh, okay. Ahora entiendo. Hmm. I might be able to work with this. Hang on. Let's try this. Okay, so going back to this. Okay. We can extend the color all the way down to where the heart is, or maybe... Okay, maybe just a little bit above. That seems to work. And then we can have it kind of like this. So the heart is over the bolero, I think. I kind of feel like making it longer, though. There has to be some kind of middle point. Or maybe, maybe I'm going about this the wrong way. What was that one? Lady Dimitrescu, I think, was the name of the vampire from Resident Evil 8, right? What kind of stuff did she have on? I remember it was like a huge white dress. Let's take a quick peek. Okay, yeah. Okay, yeah, so honestly, a little bit like this is pretty close to what I was imagining. But maybe, I don't know, how do you work with... I need to abandon the cutout. I don't think it's... I think the cutout is... avoiding... is preventing me from reaching my full potential. Cutouts have their place in time, but it's not the place and it's not the time. Okay. So how do I approach? Let's try... Okay, so I think the idea of the bolero is not a bad one. I don't think frills are the right call, though. Maybe maybe a kind of fur lining. She's kind of giving, surprisingly enough, I didn't mean for this to be the case. She is kind of giving a military vibe with the beret and everything. I think because it's like a beret and an eye patch, I think it does look very much like she's some kind of commando. Or that she used to be one, at least. Oh, and these can look like a rib cage. Okay, it's coming together. Yeah, okay. Now it's coming together. Or actually, no, wait. The ribcage this would be coming in from the opposite end. So over here. Or maybe not. You know what? We can allow ourselves some artistic license. Or maybe we can say that this is the spine? That could work. Okay. This is coming together really, really well. I am surprised. I definitely thought there would be a lot more struggle involved with this. My powers, that's true. You know what? It has been kind of a long day, so it does make sense that shit is working out for me. I don't believe that good and bad in your life need to balance out necessarily, but I do think that it is when you frame it as a way of good things happening to you. I think it works better than when you justify it for like bad things happening to you after good things happen. Because if it's like, oh yeah, you know, I had a bad day, but you know, I sung a sad song and then I turned it around. I feel like that's a much more healthy perspective than the infinite paranoia of I had something good happen to me, now something bad has to happen for it to cancel out. Like, why shouldn't things work out for you? Okay. I did also want to do something. I do think, hang on. I was thinking about this earlier when I was going through the concept stage, and I think I might actually execute on it. So, a lot of vampires I've noticed particularly in like anime and such, have a parasol as their weapon. And that makes a lot of sense because, you know, it's a very dainty kind of thing. It provides the right kind of whatchamacallit, the right kind of vibe that I think a lot of the people who design these vampires are going for. But hear me out. I'm gonna give her a cane, like a really cool gemstone studded walking cane. I think it's a good idea. I want to do it. I don't know. Is there like a type of precious gemstone called like a bleeding heart or something? Or hang on, Wikipedia page for walking stick. Or walking cane. Because I posted this on V's server, but there was a description of a guy from when having a walking stick was super fashionable that I just absolutely adored. Around the 17th or 18th century, a walking stick became an essential part of the European gentleman's wardrobe. The fashion may have originated with Louis the 14th, who favored a walking stick, possibly because he wore high heels. A curator of the Detroit Institute of Arts wrote about the elaborate walking sticks in their collection. There was almost no limit to the sums which people were then willing to spend upon them. Louis XIV had a stick whose eagle knob was set with 24 diamonds. Baller. The Regent of France, one of the outstanding rakes of the century, had a huge and famous diamond called the Regent, set as the head of a walking stick. Baller! Voltaire, who considered that he lived a life free from fashionable nonsense, owned 80 sticks. Voltaire sucks. Rousseau, a poor man and the apostle of the simple man, of the simple life, owned 40. Baller. Count Brühl, and this one's my favorite out of any of them, creator of the famous Brühl Terrace at Dresden, owned 300 canes, each with a snuff box to match, one for each of his 300 suits. Reading that shit blew my mind. I don't think I understood what it meant to be dedicated to fashion before I read this. It's incredible. Like, he cracked the code. At that point, why not go to the full distance and get one for every day of the year? I'm saying, like, I don't know. 300 is a very nice... I don't know. 365 doesn't feel like a very auspicious number. I'm not big into numerology, but 365, even though it is one for each day of the year, doesn't feel like a correct amount of number to have. It feels like an awkward number. 300, you're not exactly there yet, but you have enough that you will cycle through at least like 4 months worth of suits before you're like, you know what, maybe I should take a couple of these to the dry cleaners. But yeah, no, the guy with 300 canes and 300 snuff boxes and 300 suits lives in my mind rent-free. Count Brühl, you will always be famous to me. Look at this is definitely the face of a guy who owns 300 suits. Look at how fucking full of life he looks. Right? Like, check out that expression. This is the kind of expression you have when you're so contented with your life that everybody else is like racking their brains over what to give you for Christmas because they cannot imagine you wanting anything. Crazy work. Oh boy, politics. An entire section on politics. You know what? Never meet your heroes. Let's take a look at the politics of this guy. Brühl was a capable diplomat who played a vital role in the diplomatic revolution of 1756 and the convergence of Habsburgs and France. Guy who can weather anything as long as he's got his 300 suits and canes. He was wholly responsible for our ruinous fiscal policy, which decisively weakened the position of Saxony within the Holy Roman Empire between 1733 and 1763. Wait, ruinous fiscal policy. Did this dumbass just spend all the treasury on cane? Oh, man. Okay, Polish Civil War. He did sustainable damage to the Polish sovereignty for the engagements into which he entered in order to secure the support of Emperor Charles VI of Habsburg. For the shameless and ill-timed tergiversations? That's not a real... Nah, that's not... Hang on. Tergiversations? The act of abandoning something or someone, of changing sides, assertion, betrayal. Just say you betrayed them! Start of the third paragraph. Okay, I'm gonna bide my time. Okay. Yeah. Shameless and ill-timed abandonment of Saxony during the War of the Austrian Succession. For the intrigues which entangled the electorate in the allegiance against King Frederick II of Prussia, which led to the outbreak of the 7 Years' War. Holy shit. Wait, so this guy was responsible for the suit guy was responsible for the 7 Years' War? And for the waste and want of foresight which left the bankrupt country utterly unprepared to resist the immediate attack of the Prussian king. Damn, so this guy fucked up big time, huh? Those rosy cheeks hide a life of hardships. Shit ain't all cookies and cream for suit guy. The beginning of the 7 Years' War, when Saxon army comprised but 17,000 men. After a few weeks, the decimated army under Frederick Augustus... Shut the fuck up, Kreese Grape ZZWV. We're learning about Henrik von Brühl. Ban that guy. Ban that guy right now. After a few weeks, a decimated army under Frederick Augustus Rutkowski was compelled to surrender at Pirna for the want of necessary supplies. Army was dissolved and Saxony remained a war theater. Brühl was not only without political or military capacity, but was so garrulous that he could not keep a secret. His you never want to hear somebody hitting you with the garrulous description. His indiscretion was repeatedly responsible for the King of Prussia's discoveries of the plans laid against him. Nothing could shake the confidence of his master, which survived the ignominious flight into Bohemia, into which he was trapped by Brühl at the time of the Battle of Kesseldorf, and all the miseries of the 7 Years' War. They fled with the pictures into China, but the archives of the state were left to the victor. Quick, take the plates and the canes. We gotta get out of here. The favorite abused the confidence of his master shamelessly. Not content with the 67,000 thalers a month which he drew as salary for his innumerable offices, he was found when an inquiry was held in the next reign to have abstracted more than 5 million thalers of public money for his private use. He left the work of government offices to be done by his lackeys, whom he did not even supervise. Okay, so Henrik von Brühl was kind of a jobber. The 300 suits... I'm learning very quickly why he had 300 suits. Yeah, 5 million thalers can buy a lot of suits and snuff boxes and canes. Brühl died at Dresden on 28th of October 1763, having survived his master only a few weeks. The new elector, Frederick Christian, caused an inquiry to be held into his administration. His fortune, including large palaces at Pforten, present-day Brody, Oberlichtenau, and Wachau-Seiferdorf, was found to amount to 1.5 million thalers, and was sequestered but afterwards restored to his family. The inquiry showed that Brühl owed his immense fortune to the prodigality of the king rather than unlawful means of accumulation. Are you absolutely sure? Can we get that in writing? His profusion was often beneficial to the arts and sciences. Okay, so the caring side of Henrik von Brühl. The famous Mason porcelain swan service was made for him, with over 2,200 pieces now dispersed in collections around the... What? 2,000 fucking plates? What? Wait, no, sorry. Pardon me. 2,200 plates, Brühl? Brühl? The Mason fountain, largest assemblage of its kind, was also made for Brühl. In 1736, the architect Johann Christoph Neufel had begun to build a city palace and terrace for the count on the bank of Elbe in the heart of Dresden. This was originally called Brühl's Garden and is today known as Brühl's Terrace. The Brühl Palace at Warsaw was rebuilt according to the designs by Joachim Daniel von Wischach from 1754 to 1759. Brühl was a dedicated collector and protector of the arts. Francesco Algarotti called him a Maecenas. Friend and political advisor to Octavian, he was also an important patron for the new generation of Augustan poets. Ooh. He owned a large gallery of pictures, which was bought by Empress Catherine II of Prussia in 1768, and his library of 70,000 volumes was one of the biggest private libraries in the Holy Roman Empire. You know what? People don't do this shit enough nowadays. It's all like yachts and bullshit. You know, who gives a fuck if you have 50 Porsches? You need more books. You should be able to just buy enough books to stock a private library. People don't have private libraries anymore. That's bullshit. You should be... Like, granted, it's also true that back then there wasn't a whole lot more to spend money on. Like, either you spend money on the arts or on, like, education for your fuck-ass nephew you were gonna nepotism to stardom, But so there weren't a lot of choices. Like you couldn't buy a Nintendo Switch 2 back in the day, so I fully understand the impetus to spend money on 2,200 Mason's porcelain swan services. But you know what? We need to bring this shit back a little bit. I feel like putting together a gallery, having a huge volume of books. That's badass. That's money. That's baller. You don't need to buy like a private artificial island in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. You need to be buying books. You need to be investing in a private library like Pronto. Also, we got tremendously sidetracked. We were supposed to be researching walking sticks, I believe. Yeah, we lost our way a little bit. What the hang on. Back to the topic at hand. Various styles of walking sticks. What the fuck is that? Yeah, what's going on with that one? It's like it. Is it like? Okay, I'm not confident enough to say that it isn't a racial caricature. A lot of things were racial caricatures back in those days. This does look a little bit like a bird's beak, though. It might be a racial caricature. I should probably stop assuming it on it. You know what? I get very charitable. I thought it was like a screaming with its mouth open, though. But looking at it more closely, that might just straight up be a racial caricature. Let's not linger on that. Okay. Let's actually take a look at the types of walking sticks. A British and Irish walking stick made from the ash tree. Okay. Ash plants stick in reference to World War I when they used to test the ground's firmness and suitability for tanks. An Irish walking stick or shillelagh, ooh, okay, made from blackthorn. Shooting stick can fold out into a single-legged Get out of town. Really? Okay. A traditional British shooting stick consists of a wooden or metal shaft terminating at the base of a played foot with a bifurcated handle at the top that folds out into a simple seat. Okay. Interesting. Supplejack. Okay. Penang lawyer. After the bark was removed from only a piece of glass, the stick was straightened by fire and polished. The fictional Dr. Mortimer owned one of these in the Hounds of Baskervilles. So did Fitzroy Simpson, the main suspect in the adventure of the Silver Blaze, whose lead-weighted stick was initially assumed to be the murder weapon. Makila. Traditional Basque walking stick made from what was it? Medlar wood. ¿Quiénes son los Vasques? Southwestern European ethnic group. Okay. Basques are indigenous to and primarily inhabit the area traditionally known as the Basque Country, a region that is located around the western end of the Pyrenees on the coast of Bay of Biscay and straddles parts of north-central Spain and southwestern France. You know what? I always wonder who the Basque were. Okay. A horn pommel, woven leather grip, and nickel silver fittings. Talk to me more about these. Graved medlar wood shaft cut to a length to suit its owner, generally either hip bone or sternum height. Okay. Some are for ceremonial purposes. There is little information known on its exact origin, but may be related to medieval times as a concealable derivative of a particular form of lance or hunting spear. A practical walking stick and a weapon for self-defense. They were, and still are, carried by shepherds to help guide their flocks as well as defend against wolves and other wild predators. They are carried by hunters and hikers in the Basque Country as walking aids, and they are used in traditional folk dances. Can be swung by the handle for fast, light strikes or used the opposite way to strike with the pommel as an effective bludgeon. The concealed spike can be used to deadly effect as either a thrusting weapon or as a last resort. Sheesh. You know what? I kind of do want to look at a shillelagh, though. Because some of these have some very ergonomic looking grips. Does that one have a fucking mace at the end? Pause. Why does it have a morning star? Why do you have a flail at the end of your shillelagh? Friggin' awesome. I love it. They knew what they were about for real. Can you imagine how out of luck you would have to be, right? You're getting into a fight with... Hang on. Let me double check the origin of these. You're getting into a fight with an Irish guy for whatever reason. And, you know, he like slips out a wooden stick from his sleeve and you're like, oh shit, he's armed. And then he not only slips out the stick, he twists his sleeve a little bit and a morning style drops out and he starts fucking swinging it like that kid from Kill Bill. You're done. I think it's over at that point. God. This is like the equivalent of like those ninja weapons, but from Western Europe. Fucking beautiful. Yeah, you just have to run. I think at that point you just go home. Just leave. It's not worth it. Wait, hang on. American walking canes. This could be interesting. A woman in a soda fountain pouring liquor hidden in a walking stick into her drink during Prohibition. Fucking awesome. Women rule. Okay, here we go. A walking cane is a walking stick curved down at the top, not usually actually made of cane, but of materials including wood, metal, or carbon fiber. In modern times, walking sticks are only seen with formal attire. Retractable canes that reveal such properties are hidden as hidden compartments. Pool sticks or blades are popular among collectors. Handles have been made from many substances, both natural and man-made. Carved and decorated canes have turned the functional into the fantastic. The idea of a fancy cane to go as a fashion accessory to go with top hats and tails has been popularized in many song and dance acts. Some canes, known as tippling canes or tipplers, have hollowed-out compartments near the top where flasks or vials of an alcoholic beverage can be hidden and sprung out on demand. Awesome. When used as a mobility or stability aid, canes are generally used in the hand opposite of the injury or weakness, allowing the cane to be used for stability in a way that lets the user shift much of their weight onto the cane and away from the weaker side as they walk. Yeah, hidden and sprung out on demand is good. Turn the functional into the fantastic is like... that. You can't say that without putting a small smile on your face. Okay. Due to personal preference or need to use the dominant hand, some cane users hold the cane on their injured side. Holy shit. Hang on. In the U.S. Congress of 1856, Charles Sumner of Massachusetts criticized Stephen A. Douglas of Illinois and Andrew Butler of South Carolina for the Kansas-Nebraska Act. When a relative of Andrew Butler, Preston Brooks, heard of it, he felt that Sumner's behavior demanded retaliation and beat him senseless on the floor of the Senate with a Gutta Percha walking cane. Although this event is commonly known as the caning of Senator Charles Sumner, it was not a caning in the normal sense of formal corporal punishment. It was much more flexible and usually thinner rattan. Fucking awesome. You know what? I like that idea of having the cane hide a bottle, though. Like, hang on. Tippling cane. Tippling cane. Let's take a look here. Ah, see here. They have a small vial hidden within. Okay. Yeah, it came with some backup blood in case it's rough out there. That's exactly what I was thinking. You are reading my mind precisely. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Okay, how can we make this more interesting looking, though? So maybe... Hang on. Hang on. Deer-themed cane. Is there... What is that? Oh, it's an antler. Of course. This one's kind of speaking to me, I'm not gonna lie. The hoof on the end of the cane is inspired. I love that. Actually, that might be an interesting idea, is to have... Hang on. Am I crazy, or is Deerhoof the name of a band, too? I remember that was a thing at some point. Right, yes, the ungulate. The ever-reliable ungulate. Okay. So what I'm hearing is... Actually, can we take a second look at that lady with the tippling cane? Okay, yeah, okay. So you just unscrew the tip of the cane and then you tip it over. Hence the name. Okay, I think I'm getting an idea for what I want this to look like. Unfortunately, I do think I'm gonna have to do... What is this? What are we doing here? Why? Why? It kind of goes hard, though. This feels so unnecessary, though. Imagine you're like a ghost haunting some dude in a nightgown, and he's on that "who goes there" type shit, and you see that the candle he's carrying around is on a deer hoof. I think at that point it turns into a horror story for the ghost. Okay. Enough fucking around. We've been screwing around for like for an entire half hour already. We gotta lock it on the deer cane. Okay. Actually, hang on. I want to kind of go back real quick just to see if we can find one of those spring-loaded tippling canes, because that sounds awesome. Carrick's uplift cane with spring-loaded assist handle. Not what... It's good that exists, but that's not what I'm looking for. Classic canes. Hang on, there's a place called outwithstyle.co.uk. I kind of want to see what that's about in a second. Spring-loaded cane bolt, beechwood, black carbon fiber with plexiglass cap. On cap, no god. Selling antiques.co.uk. This might be it. Because I was picturing some kind of Looney Tunes kind of thing where you would like shift the cane a little bit and part of the cane would tip out a little bit, rather than it being like uncorking a bottle. Like, don't get me wrong, that... Holy shit. Hell yeah. Like, don't get me wrong, it's still useful, but it's not... Holy shit! Okay, this is supposed to be a sword cane, but imagine if you had like a tippling cane with like a skull motif on the top. You would be hearing the opening riff to Back in Black so many times in your head throughout the day. An elegant, unisex, classic beechwood knob-handled walking stick which hides a secret. The handle unscrews to reveal an internal glass file, 35 centimeters long, in which a measure of your favorite tipple can be stored. The file also comes with a cork plus 2 brass thimbles. This tippling stick makes a great gift idea for life's special events and anniversaries. The screw fitting and collar is made from brass, which contrasts beautifully against the beech. Holy fuck. Wait, hang on. We think you'll like? I do think I like, actually, as a matter of fact. What would non-unisex canes look like? That's a good question. You know what? I hadn't really considered it, but I guess you can't really gender a cane. This place is awesome. They are selling cashmere combs. Oh, yeah. You know what? I guess it's to assure. You know what? I guess it is kind of progressive in the sense that it means that anybody can go out and spike their own drinks as a day drinking tippler. But yeah, I am kind of in love with the big down jacket. I'm not gonna lie. Back in the day, I highly considered getting myself one of these super long jackets that went down to my legs, but I figured out that only the top of my body gets cold, and my legs are much more resistant to the cold than the rest of my body. Now, don't get it twisted. I'm not one of those maniacs who can walk around in freezing temperatures with shorts and a hoodie on, but I can manage. If you've been looking for a colorful novelty cane with lots of character, this hand-painted pheasant hardwood cane is just what you need. You hear that? This is just what you need. The beautifully crafted handle is mounted on a brown hardwood shaft that has been fitted with a smart metal collar to further enhance the elegant yet lively appearance of this walking stick. Oh, fuck yeah. Imitation ivory dog. Oh my, this one looks kind of sad though. Featuring a distinct black greyhound's head sculpted beautifully into the handle, the greyhound crook is mounted on a black beech hardwood shaft and is finished with an elegant gold gilt trim. A wonderfully stylish crook handled walking cane, making the perfect choice for dog lovers. Like, look, he's so sad. Look at him. He's like. Okay, wait, no, hang on. The expression is kind of noble, though. The bearing is forlorn, but the expression remains dignified. I can kind of fuck with that. I kind of respect that about the dog cane. And there we go. We're gonna add a little half to the end of this here. As for the antlers, or for the end of the cane. Yeah, no, I don't think we need to go super long with it. I don't think... Or actually, maybe what we could do instead is go kind of heavier on one side. I don't know, something like that. But yeah, as for the rest of the dress, I think we can go a little bit more simplistic with it, perhaps. I think we don't need to make it a super complicated dress or anything. I think if we just kind of... Or actually, hang on. We could punctuate it with additional things of the heart here. Okay, yeah. Also, I think I'm gonna change the expression a little bit on the shorter one. Just slightly. Okay. Let's actually darken the... Let's, hang on, switch to black line art so we can really get a look at how the design is coming along. I really like that. Hang on. I do think we're onto something with this. I do think this is looking quite good. We do need to finish the other one first, though. Then we can bring our full attention to the both of them as a unit. All right, time to spin. time to take a spin on. Actually, not sure what I should take a spin on. Maybe. I think I'll look around because I have some other ideas. I had like at least 3 sketches of what she could look like. Okay. I think since the tall one is wearing that kind of coat, I think it would be a good idea to make this one look a little bit lighter, maybe? Or... maybe some kind of thing here where the hat is tied to her head like this. That could be something. But then what else? Actually, I think for her, maybe what we can have is the heart symbol on the hand. And that way, instead of her sleeves going out like this, they can kind of... Okay, this is something. This is something. I feel... Wait, no, that looks a little bit too much like a strawberry, though. So maybe with some restraint we can do this. No, I feel like that's not really going... It's not up to code, per se. I feel like it's struggling perhaps to fit in with the aesthetic of, like... of the Gothic Lolita style, maybe? Because I feel like having it be... Or no, wait, hang on. Maybe I'm just not... Hang on. Let's bring it back around a little bit. Because I think maybe I'm just taking the wrong approach, because I'm putting the terminus of the sleeve poof, like, right where the hand ends. But I could probably make it so that it's super tight all the way up through the forearm. Or maybe at least halfway through the forearm. Because this is also a valid kind of style. Yeah. Okay. Oops. Okay. Okay, not bad, but there needs to be something in the shoulders that also kind of differentiates her silhouette. Maybe she doesn't have sleeve poofs, but she does have a cloak. Yeah, I think that also fits in well with the idea of her being more of a servant kind of thing, because I feel like a cloak gives more of an idea of this person is like active and kind of in you know, they're looking nice, but they're not necessarily like in the clothes of somebody who sits on their butt all day. Gotta have some protection from the elements. True. Okay. Hmm. How far down do I want the skirt to go? Because we could give her a more cropped skirt again, because just it's more practical looking, but I do kind of like the idea of her also just having... I don't know. Pants could be an option. So maybe some kind of sash here. And the pants. Oh god, that leg silhouette is fucked. Hang on. Let's hike this up a little bit. I was gonna like do those like pants that have a little bit of hang over here, but the leg silhouette looked so bad for a second that I was like, I scared myself. Hmm. Maybe, I don't know. It doesn't feel like it's clicking quite as much as some of the other ones. I think maybe no sash belt thing, but maybe just a little bit, maybe it kind of goes up to here. I don't know, should the legs hang a little bit more tightly with the curve of the thighs and everything? I don't know, let's try this. No. I think the idea for the cloak is also a little bit of a bust. I like the arms and I like the head shape of the head and everything. I'm just not sure about the cloak. Might need to... I'm just quickly scrolling through different outfits on 42 Lolita while I'm doing this, try to like fill my head with enough intuition to get something. I gotta focus. I'm shifting into Gothic Lolita mode. Actually, hang on. Maybe we don't protect her from the elements as much as we thought. What if we like give her an off-the-shoulder dress? Or no, this isn't what off the shoulder means. No, that doesn't fit well with the hat though. The hat suggests like a really kind of winterized style. So maybe actually maybe we should lean into the idea that the hat is presenting us because the hat is very big and rectangular. So I think we need to make that a running theme with her. Yeah, okay. This could be something. Okay, and then we just have these kind of going up this way. Yeah, the hat is establishing a lot as the thing. And I think it's for impeding that silhouette with the pants should also be possible. Maybe with the big ol' vest kind of deal. So maybe she does look a little bit more butlerish. Can we... Hang on. I feel like there's something more we can do with the sleeves. Also, I think maybe instead of... it feels wrong to have the ends of the vest point like this, because then it kind of breaks up the kind of squarish vibe the hat is going for. Something like this might be in order. I never understood how these... Oh, wait, hang on. So wait, maybe... Yeah, I think this is how they work, where they have some kind of binding thing under the hips. I don't know how those pants that have like Mickey Mouse buttons on them work. I don't know. I've seen them before. I understand. I know that I know what they're about. I don't understand how they work. I don't understand the mechanism of the Mickey Mouse pants. Are they what is their actual what is the actual name of those garments? Hang on. Mickey Mouse pants. All right. Let's take another quick detour. I promise we'll cap this one out at 5 minutes. So hang on. 4-button pants. Yes, these things. Button front pants. What are those about? Tell me, Wikipedia. Pants, Wikipedia. Trousers. Thanks, Wikipedia. Okay, what are the... Hang on. Alright, so... Yeah, okay, so these ones, for example. Uh-oh, that didn't look good. Why do military pants have buttons at Janelle Hernandez's blog? These are all... Are they military pants? They might be. Hang on. Military pants. Wikipedia. Or actually, hang on. We could just... Hang on. Maybe there will be more information somewhere on the historical end. No, even by this point... I love how much joy there is in this picture. Everybody's all smiles. Trouser support. Most trousers are held up through the assistance of a belt. Some trousers were suspended by the use of bracers or braces. Low-rise pants, Oxford bags. Loose-fitting, baggy form of trousers favored by students of Oxford University. Why were they called bags? They're not bags, they're pants. Trouser clips? Worn around the ankle. Okay, no. Okay, these kind of go hard though. I don't know. Some of these are kind of speaking to me a little bit. I like the silhouette of them. You know what? That's not really helping though. I don't think we're gonna get to the bottom of that particular mystery today. Something tells me that I'm not ready to know just yet. That being said, yeah, no idea what those are called. I call them like Mickey Mouse pants, but I don't even want to attribute them necessarily to Mickey Mouse. Oh, wait, hang on. What if... I'm trying to think of like a dress shape that might be able to make use of this, but maybe not. I don't think that's going anywhere. Actually, hang on. Wait. You know what? Since the one on the left has like a very long dress, maybe we can give her not necessarily a short dress, but one that has shorter... Hang on. Shorter sections like this. That kind of... Hang on. That kind of works because it makes her look more... Almost like a... It makes her look like one of those stacked toys. Okay. Okay. Maybe I need to go shorter. Hang on. So what if... no, I feel... Maybe that's overreaching. Maybe that's... that feels like it's overreaching. Let's try... Actually, I forgot to draw the hands on the one on the left. We'll get to that when we get to that. Actually, hang on. What if we... Hang on. What if we gave her like almost like a messenger bag? Over here. Okay. Yeah, this is way too wide. Okay. Maybe a big ribbon? That might be it. You do have to love a big ribbon. I will say that I'm suddenly reminded of a tweet that I saw a little bit back where it showed a girl also in a Gothic Lolita dress, and she had like a humongous, bigger than her head sized ribbon on the back of her dress, and the caption said, "The bigger the ribbon, the bigger the ego," which I thought was endlessly charming. You do love to see it. Wait, I'm a dingus. If it's a rectangular hat, I can just give her a rectangular pencil skirt. You could still make a pencil skirt plenty fancy. I think. There has to be a way. Maybe changing the shape of the ribbon might be for the best. Or maybe decreasing the size of the heart. me when I'm suggesting ways to defeat the Grinch. I don't know. I feel like that implies that the reason that having a heart that grew 3 sizes would make the Grinch invincible, where that fucker was already plenty tough beforehand. If anything, I feel like opening his heart has opened him up emotionally, and thus it also opened him up to the emotion of pain. Well, no, I guess pain isn't an emotion. I don't know. Would you call pain an emotion? I think it's more of a sensation. Like, you can feel, but I don't know. Like, you can say, I feel in pain. But I guess you could also say, like, I feel hungry. And hunger isn't really an emotion either. It's some other thing. I don't know. Is that anything? They can feel pain because of emotions, maybe? I don't know. They say plants can feel pain too, though. And I don't know if plants have emotions per se. That's a little bit of a gray area. I don't know. But then again, is the pain that plants feel also what we conceive of as pain? That's a more complicated question than you'd think. Because like plants, if you say that plants can feel pain, it's like, okay, what is you need to like start using a very excruciating, pun possibly intended, definition of what pain is, I feel like. Okay, that is true. There's also emotional pain. And it is kind of a fascinating topic too, because like there's no like I think we all more or less understand what emotional pain is, but it is interesting that we can't link it to an emotion. Like you could link it to grief, you can link it to, but I think like emotional pain, right? I think there's also like emotional pain where it's like something is torturing you. I am, by the way, just thinking of like something that's really annoying, but like you can't express. I don't know. I guess it'll be annoyance then, though, because I'm trying to think of like a situation where somebody would say that they're in emotional pain, and the most that I'm thinking of isn't like grieving a loved one, because that one's actual just straight up grief. Then what I'm thinking of is like when your friends are making a really unfunny joke. Like not necessarily, not offensive, just you don't think it's funny at all, so you just kind of have to grimace through it. But like it fucking sucks. I've never been in that situation because my friends are hilarious, but I'm trying to argue for the sake of the hypothesis here. Hmm. Okay. Wait, hang on. I just got a huge idea. I might need a little bit more room on the bottom here. Activated the brain blast. That's right. We're giving her huge platform boots. I think she wants to feel tall. I do like the idea that she is kind of a little shithead, but she is absolutely and without hesitation ride or die for her superior. I do like I'm very fond of characters who have like an absolute sense of loyalty, but are also like not very of the typically stoic loyalty kind of people. I don't know. I find myself drawn to the people who can dedicate their lives to like one specific thing, because I'm all over the place, right? I'm I'm like, I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to do this. I have like 50 million things I want to do. But there are some people out there who like a friend of mine sent me this video of a pair of audio files in Japan, right? Who one of them has converted his living room. Okay, one of them is really cool, not because he is like super dedicated to not because of the level of dedication. I would say like he's very dedicated, but it's also just the technical lengths that he went through, because he erected a power pole specifically to have a direct line to energy, no AC adapter DC bullshit of any kind. He rigged a power pole just so he could directly feed from the power grid energy to his speakers. And he was like, "Yeah, no. You can't. If you want the best, absolute best quality, you can't just use any old plug. You kind of have to get it directly from the source because otherwise, interference from the different plugs will creep into the audio." I'm like, "You are out of your fucking mind," but I respect the hell out of you. And the other one has a sound system in his apartment and a record collection that's so extensive that he has to move his couch to open his fridge. The rest of his house is just pure audio equipment. And again, I can't imagine dedicating myself to one specific thing like that. Like, obviously, I've dedicated myself to visual art, for one thing. But even then, my interests are all over the place. That guy chose his one thing, and it's gonna be with him till he dies. I don't know. I just think it's awesome when you can like give yourself completely to one thing like that. I haven't found what that is for me yet. But I've seen what it can do to people. I think it really fulfills them in a way that very few things can. And that's not it's not in the cards for everybody. I get that. You know, in reality, I think the people who do develop those obsessions are, in some regards, the lucky ones because you know they found their thing. They found the thing that drives them, and they've grown to love in an almost in a truly tremendous way. You know, it's awesome to see how people live their lives, and it's interesting too because like I feel like you would a lot of the times you would think to yourself, you know, the more rational part of your mind says, how can you live like that? How is that fun for you? But like I think in a lot of cases it's not about the rationality of it, but the kind of artistry of it, the beauty of seeing someone just being like very unapologetically about something. I think is very inspiring. I think when you see people who are like that, it makes you feel more safe to be yourself. I think I do believe that. I think and I think that's also why it's important to avoid punching down whenever possible. Like there are times when people are like, yeah, I'm kind of a I'm kind of a bum, but at least I'm not XYZ random thing, right? Like yeah, sure, why not? But like also, I do think if you do meet somebody who's just very unapologetically about that, it's kind of fascinating in its own way because you see what happens. It's almost like looking at a version of yourself who's completely unafraid to share their interests. Because I feel like a lot of people who do have, you know, more niche, more nerdy interests do have been kind of conditioned to kind of hide their power level, so to speak. So seeing somebody living their best life like that is inspiring in some ways. Okay, these shoes look kind of fucked if I'm being honest. How do I make them look? I don't know. How do they keep those big old shoes on their feet all the time? Like especially these ones that have like smaller straps. Actually, I could just add the little logo here and call it a day. We should probably get to coloring pretty soon anyway. God, it is so fucking funny to me that with the shoes on, she's wearing the huge shoes and the huge hat just so that she can like approximate the person she serves in height. I might have unintentionally just made like a really hilarious character. God. You know what? I do think we need to have more of. It's not good to. Okay, so it's gonna sound a little strange. I do think we need to have more female characters who are like body conscious in the way that male characters are, where they're like, "Oh my god, I need to wear lifts so I can be taller." Because I feel like there's something, or like who wear like toupees or shit. I feel like there's something very fascinating about those kinds of neuroses, and I think it's a shame that they're only limited to male characters. Like we need to just have a girl who's like constantly wearing the scorpion jacket from the movie Drive featuring Ryan Gosling. And she's a little bit of a loser, but she's trying so hard to look cool and mysterious. God. I do think that it is vitally important that you balance. I think there's a fascinating middle ground, or at least a mixture of characters who are solid people, which is to say, like they're reliable or competent, or not even necessarily competent, they're just stable to be around. And also like a mixture of making them absolute losers sometimes. I don't know. They say that comedy is this idea of subverting an expectation or doing something that is contrary to people's expectations. So I do think that somebody who is extremely stoic can be very funny. But I do think in order to make to avoid having a sort of sacrifice everything for the aura kind of situation, I do think you need to give them moments where they're like, it's just genuinely kind of pathetic the ways in which they lose. Not that like bad shit keeps happening to them, but like may they, I don't know, like maybe they trip on their way off of a bench or something. Or like maybe the dentist is berating them for not flossing enough. Like you need to give a lot of these people like a very mundane sort of loserness. It cannot be comical, because otherwise that also transforms their character into something different. Well, that's my philosophy, at least. I think whether you agree or not that that's a valid approach or a valid mixture, I think it's up to you. I do remember listening to this one podcast called Dirty Old Ladies, which is contrary to what the name might have you expect. It's not. It's about a group of three webcomic artists, and they discuss their different approaches and philosophies to making comics. And one of them suggested that a good way to kind of hash out a character is that at any given point, they can have two. They don't necessarily need, but they can have 2 out of 3 maxed, which is competence, motivation, and likability. Because otherwise they're like too characteristically good or too characteristically sucky. So I think that is a valid balance, and I do think we need to. There is a lot of value in trying to make somebody unlikable on purpose, because I think it's easy to make somebody unlikable, but it's very difficult to make them unlikable and compelling. Because if you want to make them unlikable, you can just like have them punt a dog or something, right? And that's already kind of like a heinous act. It's very easy to do that. But if you want to make somebody unlikable but compelling, it's much. I guess this is probably what Breaking Bad is about, huh? I don't think anybody on the show likes Walter White, but I do think he is like very motivated and competent, which I think is like part of what makes a show so interesting. Or maybe he's not even that competent. Maybe he's just really motivated. Let's try this. Okay. And let's get the hands on the other one. I should probably think up names for these two while I draw, huh? I don't know. What would be good names? I feel like a lot of vampire characters are named after red or blood or whatever. So I think it would be funny to like call one of them Cyan. I think that might be the... I think that might be a good name for the shorter one. Oh, her arm is supposed to be... Wait, I think I've... Hang on. Some of the proportions here are looking a little bit iffy, but we'll figure it out or we won't. Also, I might shift these buttons to be slightly higher up. Actually, they should be on the outer edge of the sleeve. Like so. That feels correct. Okay. Okay. All right. Really loving the designs. Thank you. Honestly, these have been fun to work on. I feel like frilly dresses and such. Well, these aren't really frilly, actually. Come to think of it, I think I might have I might have slightly smudged the mission statement here. But I think like these more kind of low key designs are something that I'm also not particularly used to. So it's fun to step out of the comfort zone of making just people who can bash your head in 5 ways from Sunday. Yeah, not quite as much Gothic Lolita in the end, but it's fine. Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. Listen, don't even worry about it. As long as I don't use a keyword in there. So I don't know. I'm so scared. You know, it's a very irrational fear, but I'm very worried about using the wrong keyword in my description sometimes and having an absolute, you know, some kind of black belt Gothic Lolita ball knowledge haver sliding into my DMs with 5 different paragraphs, kind of instructing me on the correct methods. I remember back in the day. This was quite a bit ago, actually. I made this design. Hang on, I had it up for the... Hang on, let me pull up the replica of it. Because it's quite a fun story, actually. I really like the story. So, back when I first assigned this, So to give you certain context for what this was what I used during the garage sale stream. So the design for this, the herald for this, is supposed to be Rice Beast with the sun on top. And when I posted it the first time, it looked a little bit different. It had, I think, white on yellow or red on blue or something like that. And was it Titania? I think it was Titania who very gently kind of let me know that in designing these kinds of heralds, you're supposed to actually have, there's like this the thing called the rule of tincture, I believe, where you can't have white touch yellow because those are both metallic colors, and you can't have like blue touch red because both of those are some kind of opaque colors, matte colors. I'm not sure, but them's the rules. And I hadn't been aware of these. I felt like somebody just like slapped my hand out of a cookie jar. Thankfully, I redeemed myself by altering the design in time for the garage sale. But on the other hand, I find those to be really valuable experiences. I kind of do wish somebody would kind of instruct me in the method, because I feel like if you have that knowledge, even if you don't retain too much of it, it's still information that's going to be useful in the future. Like, I can put together a very competent looking dress shoe or a very competent looking boot in like 10 strokes. Right. So I think it goes like this and like this. And I do that because I learned a while back about like the kind of parts and components that go into stitching a shoe. Like, I learned about this bit here in the middle, and I learned about the front, which it holds the toe and everything, and I learned about this back bit, which is sewn over top of this section, actually. Most of the time. So, there are exceptions, of course, as there are exceptions to everything. But now that I just have that kind of foundational knowledge, I can just bring it out whenever and cobble together a shoe from it. cobble together a shoe from it very quickly. You know, learning from someone who knows what they're talking about is really cool. And you know, it's not always a perfect system, because sometimes they do have like very biased perspectives that aren't necessarily the most popular opinions, but even that is valuable to know. And hell, if it works for you as a knowledge system, you can keep using it. It's not like it's, unless it's something like that's particularly like a particularly problematic misconception. Like, if you know, I happen to end up learning about Gothic Lolita dressing styles from this person, and they also try to convince me that geocentrism is real. You know, that I could probably discard the second part of that. God, that would be a fascinating character to talk with, huh? The Gothic Lolita Flat Earther. Geocentrism and flat earthery are not the same thing, but they are kind of conflated in my mind. Like, I do wonder. It's all a bunch of different misconceptions and bullshit conspiracy theories, but why don't people who believe in flat Earth not also believe in geocentrism? I feel like that's a wasted opportunity. Like, you're already trying to go against the grain on common scientific knowledge that the Earth is round. Why stop there? Are you like offended by the idea that Earth? So do you believe the sun is round and Earth orbits around it? Like, how do you know? It's just confusing to me what people choose to what parts of like this insane dogma people choose to believe in and what is not part of it. I don't know. I kind of want to learn more about flat Earth Earthery from like a purely anthropological point of view, but I don't think that's a good idea. I don't want to get mixed up in that with that crowd in any capacity. My knowledge and questions are all that I have. I can't really I can't risk getting any stupider. Or, you know, getting stupid, period. Also, her nose is a little bit to the side. Okay, let's put these together a little bit more tightly, just so that they don't... there's no spill error. Okay, then over here. Actually, no. I'm gonna give the short one longer ears. I don't know. Are there dresses that let you walk like this? I feel like there aren't, right? No, there have to be dresses that like go all the way around like this. I should also just give her. I'm sad to cover up the platform boots, but I do think it would be funny. Or actually, you know what? I might have to forsake the platform boots. The enticing proposal of never having to draw shoes for these two is kind of overwhelming. This is kind of interesting though. Hang on. Wait, no, this is perfect actually. Wait, we're so back. The platform shoes were not sacrificed in vain. Okay. Let's detect any stray particles floating around. Because I feel like I'm probably missing something somewhere. Like this bit right here, this bit right here can go. Okay. I think a dark blue would be a good background color for these two. Yeah, I think a bright red for the hearts is gonna work really well. Why did it not paint in one of her ears? Why did it leave out that ear specifically? It's a little strange. I feel like I'm working backwards with the 20-40-10 rule in this particular predicament. You know what? If spring-loaded Tibble things don't exist in real life, I'll just have to make one myself. Oh wait, I've got an idea. So in order to make the tipple mechanism, I think I'm going to have the logo of the two on the cane right here, but the little stake that's normally going through it is the part that springs out and you can pour stuff out of. I think that'd look really nice. Okay. I think maybe the eyes could also be red. I think that'll look really cool. Maybe like a slightly lighter navy blue. Oh yeah, I guess it would also be on the hand here, huh? Downright vampiric. I feel like that doesn't look pale enough, if that makes sense. Like, it looks bright, but it doesn't look pale. Maybe if I almost like put a bluish hue on it. Yeah, that's a ticket. And I do think having black irises would suit the look well as well. Or not black irises, black sclera. What I could do at this point is also... Now that makes her look kind of sad, though. Maybe her eyes are like all red. Or maybe it's just the iris that is dark. Honestly, that does look a lot better. Actually, let's just try white iris. Nah, this one... I like this one better. Oh my gosh, that looks so much better. Alright, hang on. Let's clean up that makeup real quick. We'll put it back in just a second, hang on. We just gotta... We just need to give her an actual neck. Actually, this does raise an interesting question. What color should the steak be? Should we make it... Is gold a stretch? Would gold fit in with this? I think gold it looks good with it because I think then you could almost pass it off as a flower. You know, to the casual passerby. Gold's actually a really cool idea, right? I'm growing quite fond of it. Okay. So let's try and push this to the limit. Let's try and make this part of the... Okay, this needs some additional work on the lines, I think. Okay. I do like that the reverse ribcage on the heart here does look a little. It is low key giving Go My Scarab. Hmm. Okay. Solid gold walking cane is badass. Her powerful scarab attack. Me when I'm a vampire, but my only power is to unleash my scarab. Actually, that would be kind of a badass power. I feel like one of the few pieces of media that could really capture like what a bug user at peak level looks like is probably that one web novel Worm. I don't know. I've been reading more wuxia stuff lately, and they talk a lot about using venomous bugs in the middle of battle to try and envenom their opponents. So I don't know. Maybe the Scarab strat is kind of has some qualification to it. Maybe the Scarab attack isn't all buzz. Hmm. I don't know. I kind of want to make her outfit look less. Hers reminds me of like a tundra, right? Like maybe a more Arctic climates. But I think because hers is she has a deer antlers and everything. I think she is more suited to look like maybe moss or something. Like maybe some greens. Could we swing that? Is that it? Maybe. No, a green for the beret is a bit much. And I do think that they should probably match, at least in terms of color scheme. This could be something. Oh, this is definitely something. Okay, yeah. I do want to do something about the hair, though, because I feel like it's currently blending in too much with the fur lining of the bolero. So maybe... Could we do red fur lining? Is that something we could get away with? I think it is! Ooh, this is looking nice! No, I think having the lighter color at the bottom works really well. But I do think she also needs to... We do also need to differentiate the cane a little bit more. Could we have the cane be like... Ooh, the fully red cane is kind of good. But I'm also kind of liking the cane just as it is. Hang on, maybe we can do something like a gradient along the dress so that the cane can stand out a little bit more. Oh my god, that looks incredible. I don't know, is that too dark? No, that's fine, that's fine, that's fine. Have faith in your evil. Actually, what would she look like with white Slera? Yeah, no, I think the black Slera give her like the right mix of menacing, but not angry. You know what I mean? Like I feel like the white Slera doesn't have enough distinction. Also, I'm gonna make the heart eye patch a little bit bigger. Okay. And just rounding out this part here. And then we just gotta repair the patches here. But yeah, I did have it in my mind that their dynamic is basically that the... Okay, I gotta come up with names for them. Names are so hard. Also, I forgot the shade. I forgot the color in one of the sleeves down here, which would have been a tremendously sad blunder on my part. Also, I'm gonna remove the buttons from the middle part here. I think the buttons can be implied rather than overt. Oh, I also need to add golden stakes to the bottom hearts here. Okay, before I move on, anything else? Any other hearts that I've missed? No, this is fine. Okay, so... Okay, Wikipedia page for cyan colors. Shades of cyan. Don't fail me now. Okay. Okay, there's Azure, but that doesn't really roll off the tongue as a name. Celeste, that's nice, but I think that one indie game has kind of completely overshadowed any other mention of Celeste or Celeste. Sometimes called CL, which I think is already a vampire name. in the Nasuverse, actually. Dark Cyan. Keppel, it could be interesting. Midnight Green, Moonstone. Myrtle Moonstone. Okay, hang on. Myrtle Moonstone, though, doesn't that sound more like werewolfish? Because werewolves, vampires are the creatures of the night, but werewolves are also like very moon-based. Skobeloff. Teal. Tiffany. Verde Gris. Yeah, werewolves do. Let's not. Zomp? Zomp. ISCC NBS descriptor, brilliant green. That's crazy. Zydeco is kind of nice. Okay, so Lady Zydeco and Tiffany. No, Tiffany is copyrighted. We can't use Tiffany. And we can't name her Robin because there's already a sidekick named Robin. Maybe we can just call her Cyan. Okay, hang on. I'm seeing the vision. We call the short one Myrtle, but she calls herself something like Miri because she thinks Myrtle is a lame old lady name. Okay. Yeah, okay. Let's go with that then. What would be a good font for this? You can't go wrong with Arial Bold. And we can call the tall one Lady Zydeco. Is Zydeco like named after something? The color, I mean. Like, where did Zydeco come from? Hang on, does Wiktionary have Zydeco on the lockdown? Let's see, Zydeco. From Louisiana Creole Zydeco, compare French Sarico. Possibly a meta-analysis of French Le Haricot and Le French Les Haricots in a dance tune title. Yeah, dance tune title in Les Haricots. A form of Louisiana Creole music characteristically performed by an accordion and a washboard band that performs Cajun and Creole roots music with elements of African American music. In that case, we could call her Zariko because I think if I don't know. Should we just make her a Louisiana Creole woman? I think we'd have to change her hair to make her fully black because right now I just gave her darker skin. Well, I mean, no, there's black people with straightened hair too, though. It's like what, 9? I got time. All right, hang on. We're doing a tiny little overhaul. We're changing up Zydeco so that she can have more black features. Oh god, she's bald now. Okay, maybe like 3C hair? I think 3C hair might be a good point. Yeah, okay. I see the vision, I see the vision. Oops. Alright, so here's what let's do. I'm going to have the hair like very tightly. I don't know the correct terminology for it, but it's going to be it's going to be that thing where hair is like it almost like looks glued to the scalp over here, and from there downward, it's going to be just very natural 3C hair. All right, full send on the 3C hair or C3. No, it's 3C. It is also really funny to think that Zydeco is also like it could also just mean bean. Like yeah, man, come down to the club tonight. We're listening to bean music. Fucking, I would be excited for that. Like if somebody told me that the genre of music we were listening to is called bean, I think I would just have to go. I don't think it wouldn't matter if I had work tomorrow. I would just go. I would need to see what the fuck that was about. Who doesn't want to sit down for a leisurely night of listening to some bean? Whoops, wrong layer. Okay, and we can clean up this part here. Sodico. Okay, so Zariko is also is from Les Haikos. What's Zoriko? Okay, Zoriko doesn't have an actual. Oh shoot! Have I just been on the web browser this whole time? My bad. Hang on. Let me show you what I've done with the hair. There we go. There she is. I can't believe I had you all talking to Bean for like the 3 minutes, 3 to 5 minutes it took me to fucking put this together. My deepest apologies. I don't want to. I got shy, so I put Bean on the phone. Oh god. It does also have some ties to vampire lore because there is that idea that if you throw down beans on the ground, vampires will stop to count them. Real bean hours. That's what I'm talking about. We're on International Lagoon time, and it's bean o'clock. Okay. Is the short version of Madame is MME, right? Hang on, let me look that up. MME, MD Calc, morphine milligram equivalence calculator. Not really what I had in mind. Hang on, Madame abbreviation. Oh yeah, it is MME. Okay. Okay, and lower the saturation, lower the luminosity a bit. And kind of just... Wrong layer. But yeah, like I said, the idea for these two particular characters is that they would be basically occult investigators working as vampires. I also wanted to introduce a. I thought to myself, "Hey, what if we did something funny and introduced wuxia cultivation magic systems to Vampire Society?" And I did some googling, and it turns out that's basically already what Vampire the Masquerade is. Which, as you can't imagine, was quite a blow to me. Okay, here's what let's do. Cut and paste. Put this over here. How can I... Oh, wait, I know. I just need to add more space. God, could you imagine if somebody's like, why do you call yourself Madame Sadiko? And she's like, I like beans. It's that simple. Love me beans, love me attendant, hate werewolves, simple as. Okay, and then like that. Nice. And I'm also going to add the end of the stake over here. Oh, wait, hang on. I've also got an idea. We could have them be in a detective agency and call it Bleeding Heart. I think that would be... It's just late enough in the night that I think that's peak. I do need to have the scenario bold, though. Okay. First of all, we need to... Okay. I understand some parts of how to do this. Okay, first of all, we need to have this as big as possible. To have this much bigger. Bigger and larger. And then we also need to reduce the font size. I need to put these two together as close as possible. There we go. That looks good. Okay. I should probably give them at least some color in the background, huh? Let's do that. How about we just find a random texture? Here's what let's do. Let's find a random ass texture. This one will do. Then what we're gonna do is we're going to rasterize that. We're going to find this one specific gradient map that I know is gonna go great with it. Somewhere around here. Here it is. Okay, and we're going to paint this one fully white. And bring this back. That's weird. Why is it not... Oh, there we go. It's not really working, is it? Also, I'm gonna just call her Madame. I think brevity is the soul of wit. And I'm also going to... Hang on. Okay, I'm going to rasterize the text. I'm going to bring the heart over to that layer. And then I'm also going to fiddle around with the colors until it makes a much more appealing one. Okay, and then put these two over here. And you know what? We have to we still have a little bit of time. Let me just do a really quick sketch. Okay. Using the same color. Let's grab the rectangle, make that empty, remove the roundness of the corner, make the line a little thicker, I think. Gonna need to be a little thicker than that. Oh, I think I ended up removing Mary's smudged makeup, but honestly, she looks much better without it. I do think that the smudged makeup would be a cool choice, but I think maybe now's not the time. I will, however, give her a little beauty mark. I think it looks cute. Okay. Let's do this. We'll take the head that we've already put in there, and we're going to put it inside a folder, and we're going to apply a mask to that folder so that no matter what we draw in there, it's not going to go outside of the borders of that square. Okay, I've got an idea. So I think the idea that I had originally is that Miri. So Madame Zariko is very much like an aberrant kind of vampire because she has the ability to walk in sunlight, but she also doesn't have a lot of the abilities that other vampires have. She has to get by on her wits. However, Miri has like the full suite of vampire abilities, so I think most of the time she's just going to hang out in Madame Zariko's shadow until Madame Zariko needs her for something. Or she is very much going to be like a very sarcastic little sidekick that is has a little bit of jester's privilege, I think. Did I actually give her an eyebrow? I don't think I did I? Let's go back and fix that real quick. Maybe just a little bit shorter? Smaller. And we also need to make the beret a little bit longer, just so it can fit her whole head. I do also like the idea that Madame Zariko is very much like one of those like super old vampires who's been around for like a minimum of 300 years. But Miri was just born in the 80s and dresses like this because she because she wants to match with Madame Zariko. Okay. Trying to think about how to balance the colors, the light on this. Okay, the stake from the heart is gonna come out over here. I think there's also going to be a heart on the back here. I do also like the idea that Madame Zariko is the one who has like maybe it's related to why she is. I am also just spitballing world building here. Maybe the reason why she's able to do some things that vampires can, but not all of them, but it has some resistances to the weaknesses they have, is because of these stakes. So maybe it's some kind of ritual. What you think about? I did have the idea to mix it with wuxia style cultivation, so maybe it has to do something with acupuncture or the idea of meridians. Hmm. Okay, maybe instead of having her be all the way up here, we put her down. I should save my work. I haven't saved at all in the last 3 hours. What am I thinking? I should have saved like 2 hours ago minimum. Oh well, nothing bad happened, so it's no big deal. Okay. And bring this out. Okay. And then we'll also have the horn growing out of one side of the head. Because, yeah, I think the idea here is definitely going to be like... And I'm trying to keep this as... How do I put this? I'm going to try and keep this little doodle over here in the corner as simple as possible, but I just want it to be able to tell a story with the amount of space that it has, which is which can be kind of challenging. Or at least demonstrate what they're about. Also, this posture is... I really should have just added a dummy here. But that's okay. We can piece this together. The only thing we lack is courage. Okay, no, more accurately, the only thing I lack is courage. I'm sure everybody here is very courageous. I do like that in Spanish, the word coraje can mean courage, but it can also just mean like rage. Like if you say me da coraje, it means it makes me angry. So I do think it has a certain kind of bravado associated with it that courage in English doesn't really have. This is all to say, when I think of courage, I think not only of the pink cowardly dog, but also of like somebody like being like, I've had enough. Okay. Wait, no, this works perfectly actually. She can because now she's posed up the same way as Dio is in that one picture of from Stardust Crusaders. Okay. And then over here. Also, her boobs are like way too far out. I need to reel those in. I stretched myself too thin. I underestimated the power of the shoulder puffs she has. Okay. Yep, and this part's the hand. And maybe I can make her do like a sort of funny gesture to do like magic shit with blood. Because that's the thing as well. When I was thinking about the setting, I was also thinking about that whole business with Killer 7. I don't think that was a good stream game, but I am glad that I played the game to the end. I don't know. Some games I find not very fun to play, but I find them very compelling all the same because of their stories or because of the messages that they have to communicate. Killer 7 is one of those games. If you asked me to be like, did you think Killer 7 was a fun time? I would say fuck no. I hated the boss battles, I hated the normal battles, I hated some of the puzzle solving. I hated some of the sound design, even though it was iconic. But can I say that I didn't like Killer 7? I cannot. I thought it was peak. Even though the gameplay did not rub me the wrong way. I need to change the gesture so it doesn't look like she's about to reach out and uncork one of the steaks. I don't think that's the right term, but it feels like the most appropriate one. That would be an interesting idea though, like stakes as power limiters. I feel like that's too straightforward of a purpose though. Oh, yeah, I can just make one of the fingers a little bit taller than the other one. And then... Perfect, nobody will be any of the wiser. Okay. I need to find globules of liquid suspended in zero gravity. Let me peep the images on display. I think half of these are AI generated for sure, but like I forgot that they just do turn into balls. I forgot that there's no like cool. Wait, no, I'm thinking of lava lamps. Lava lamps will have what I need. I accidentally looked up lava lamp. Lamps probably should not be near lava. Hot tip for you aspiring shepherds out there. Okay, I can make this more obviously a hand, I think. But yeah, I was talking about Killer 7 because I remembered something that really stuck to me about it was its upgrade system. Specifically the fact that it distinguished like an in-level consumable called Thin Blood from a permanent character upgrade material resource called Thick Blood. And I thought that was also an interesting idea. Like, thick blood is a medical condition, but it's also kind of compelling as an idea of, you know, what is it thickened with? What is it thick? I guess, wait, no, I guess that's really the short and long of it, huh? What is it thick with, precisely? Okay. I'm going to do a thing here where I'm going to actually I'm gonna keep this part of the beret clear. I'm gonna paint the hair black. I also need to remember to not use white to kind of undo some of the lines here, because if I do that, then once I do put this back on, it's not going to show up so clearly. Okay. Okay. And we're also going to use a... Hang on. Oh, actually this color looks kind of nice with it, but I was actually planning on using a halftone layer. I might just do it like this, so I think that's probably more productive to just use values and apply this as a multiply layer or something. Okay, and actually, no, what we're going to do is we're probably going to add like that, or no. Hang on, we need a darker color than this, but it doesn't quite reach the... like that, and then... lower the tolerance, and perfect. Head it with a gradient. Very nice. Fabulous. And we are also going to need to use the same color for this part of the beret here. I don't know, is this the right color for the blood? I'll just go with it for now. And what we're also going to do is we're going to add a shadow right around here. Hang on. No, that cuts too cleanly into where the beret is sitting, so we can't do that just yet. Okay. Will this work? Yes, sir! Okay. And what we're going to do here is we're just going to add the slightest tinge of color. And a little bit of shadow to the top of her head here. And actually, we're going to change the trajectory of the one up here, just like that. Actually, we can maybe deepen the shadows here. That actually looks pretty good, actually. I like that. Okay, and then the plan from here was to have a hand from Miri poke out, but I don't know if that's gonna work precisely. Also, this doesn't really look... You know what? I'm shelving this. It was an interesting thought, and I'm having fun drawing it, but I don't think it works unless... Hang on. Let me try something. Okay. Gonna go down here. We're gonna erase this part from the thing here. Yes, okay. And then what we're going to do, I think we can continue with the original plan of having Miri just poke her head out from here. And it's going to be a little bit easier now as well, because we can just have her dopey little hat just kind of stick out from here. Wait, how does her hat go again? Wait, okay. Left to right. Okay. Okay. Okay, and we can just add a little bit here. Her big old fucking ears sticking out of the sludge of the shadows. Alright, here we go. I don't think those read his eyes very well. Hang on. Oh yeah, I guess. Hang on. I know what's missing. I need to lighten the rest of her head and face. Okay. And then we're going to use the large eraser to have the eyelashes really stick out like this. And actually, she's looking the wrong way. I think she'd probably be looking at Madame Zareko. Also, I need to stretch out the hat a little bit in a certain direction. Okay, and then bringing this like this. And maybe I should make a little bit more of the other ear stick out as well. I think that'll be a good move. I think I need to move the whole face a little bit. Oh, that looks kind of weird. But I think it's gonna work. Oh my god, it worked. That's crazy. Why did that work? You know what? I'm not looking at gift horse in the mouth. If it works, it works. Okay. And then we're going to add one last layer, and we're going to have... It's going to stick like directly on top of... No, that's not going to work. I guess a better option would be to use the darken tool. Yeah, I think that's a better option. Alright, let's do that then. Okay, just really lather it on there. And then blending mode, darken. Perfect. And we can just get rid of it a little bit over here. Alright, I am now officially satisfied and done with this drawing. Alright. So what did we learn today? That walking canes can bankrupt a man. The Gothic Lolita. I'm gonna need to train a lot more before I can draw Gothic Lolita clothing. That Zydeco is not only a music genre, but also is a reference to beans for some reason. I don't know. You could say we learned a lot today. Is anybody upstreaming this at this hour, at this specific location, at this time of the year? I am looking forward to something in particular, though. I'm really happy because very soon the days are going to get longer again. For me, it's going to happen in like maybe 10 days or something. But it's going to happen. And that's when I'll start regaining my power. Little by little, I'll get it back. This shit with the sun setting at like 4:30, not for me. Alright, in the meantime, I'm gonna send you all over to Zed, who is currently playing Ace Combat 7. So, take it easy. I'll see you next week, and look out for something that I'm gonna upload on the weekend. Alright, that's it. See you later. Bye.